Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in London? From is it safe to live here?
Are there any good job opportunities?
To what's it like just living here on a day-to-day? We had a ton of comments on our Vienna version of this video, so we've pulled together a list of 10 things that we like about living in London and 10 things that are not so great. So let's dive in. We've been living here for a year now and we've narrowed it down to 10 positive and 10 negative points.
We hope that this video is going to be very useful and very informative, but at the end is our opinion, so feel free to agree or disagree with our points.
Number one, there are endless things to do in the city. From world-class museums like the Tate and the British Museum, to the theatre in the West End, concerts, food markets, street markets, there's always something to do.
So in comparison to when we lived in Vienna, where we literally ran out of things to do in 2 years, here in London, it's not the same. We are exploring and finding new things to do all the time, and it's quite difficult to get bored in the city.
So last year, for the purpose of YouTube, I went off exploring London's best museums and galleries, parks and gardens, street markets, including street food, and there is just so many. I absolutely loved it because I went to places that I'd never been before, like the National Portrait Gallery, and most of the places that I visited were free because that was the purpose of me seeking them out. You can find just so many places and areas to visit in London without actually spending too much money. And then when it comes to the evening, there are so many gigs and concerts going on. You can use the Resident Advisor app to check your specific date and you'll be able to see a long list of shows that are going to be happening in specific areas. Also the Time Out app you mentioned is a really good one as well.
Yeah.
And there's an Instagram account as well. There's loads of Instagram accounts promoting so many events that are happening in London as well, which could just be like pop-up stalls, exhibitions that are just open for a few days. You could also just stumble across these things just by walking in and around the city.
The second point is about food. Being London a very multicultural place, this reflects obviously in the food as well. There is countless places where you can find lots of nice food from all over the world. There are lots of street food markets, many of which we reviewed already in our vlogs. We've been quite positively surprised about the variety that you can find in these street markets. Literally you can find places from Jamaica, from Vietnam, from Thailand, twists on British cuisine as well, and it's just really nice to have this variety. We live in Southeast London, and 5 minutes away from us we discovered this Vietnamese place which is probably the best Vietnamese food we ever had, and we've been to Vietnam as well, and the food they do in that place, it's actually better than in Vietnam. And then we can walk another 5 minutes, be in this high street full of different restaurants, from Japanese pizza places, the new Jamaican place that we tried the other day, and then
good.
The food scene obviously evolves all the time, so there are always new openings and you will gain lots of weight here.
Yeah, if you are obviously like craving a specific type of food, it's very, very easy to find it in London.
And I feel like in London they're always testing this new pop-ups, like when it was the corn dog situation, you remember?
Korean corn dog?
Korean corn dog. Huh. It was many places everywhere around here, yeah.
And bubble waffle, all these little hype things.
All the American chains as well, they usually open their first European location always in London. So, you know, Shake Shack is pretty much everywhere. Five Guys, it's here since ages. Fried chicken stores like Slim Chicken, Wingstop. Yeah. So there is just a lot of variety as well if you like junk food, like we do.
So our third pro about living in London is the transport links. London is very well connected. You have a ton of underground trains, you have overground trains, bus network that is just scattered all the way across the city. You can also get the Uber boat to go across the Thames. They also have, what is that cable car? There's also a cable car that you can get from Greenwich, which we need to do soon. Essentially, you can make your way very easily across the city.
What we also like is that on a night out, we need to go home. There are always buses 24/7 and underground as well. On the weekends, it's open 24/7, so you can always go home.
And you can use your contactless card, you can use an Oyster card and add money to it. London is one city that you're not going to be needing a car, because essentially you can get there faster with a tube or with a train. Plus, you can also get the Lime bikes, the Forest bikes, the Santander bikes, which are all plotted around the city.
To get from point A to point B is actually much faster to just get a Lime bike.
Yeah.
That's what we usually do as well.
And there are cycle lanes that are pretty good for cyclists, so that you're not having to tackle with lots of traffic.
So the next point is about career opportunities, and this was one of the reasons why we moved back to London. London attracts talent from all over the world in different fields. We have friends who work in so many different industries, going from tech, finance, music industry, movie industry, all this other creative type of jobs. London can be like a career ladder where people come here to London to get better at their jobs. Even after Brexit, I feel like there is still a lot of possibilities here in London. For example, I work in fintech, and on a daily basis I have messages on LinkedIn from recruiters offering me new jobs. Maya works in marketing, and probably London could be one of the best places for that field as well. Some of your friends have all these creative jobs, and the market is really, really strong. There are definitely other areas in the UK which are struggling a little bit right now, but I feel like London is still the main place to be if you want to find a good job, being paid a fair wage, improve your skills.
Point number 5, shopping and fashion. So obviously everyone knows that London is crazy for shopping. You've got all the major fashion brands. You can go to Oxford Street and see these gigantic stores. It's obviously just such a big culture.
You have lots of really nice shopping malls, like the Battersea Power Station that we usually like to go. There is Harrods, which is so iconic, as well as Selfridges, Liberty in Regent Street.
If you come here, you can literally spend all day shopping in London until you drop.
This is quite dangerous because you actually can spend lots of money. Me and Maya, we try to limit ourselves in the shopping we do, but there are just so many good deals, and I feel like it's much easier to get a lower price here rather than in Europe. And if you're traveling here as a tourist, remember you can claim your taxes back on the way out.
I have created also a vlog about the best shopping markets, and this is more like street markets like Portobello in the area of Notting Hill, where you find lots of antique stores and vintage treasures. The other place that I recommended was Brick Lane in Shoreditch. I'd probably say it has the best vintage shopping, so all great areas to check out.
The next positive point that we want to talk about, which for us is a really positive thing, is that London is a very intercontinental. London has a lot of international cultures all combined in one huge city, and I love this part. So you have all these different pockets of areas where you have communities living there, so you can go there and try all their foods and stuff. We usually like to go to Brick Lane, which has a lot of different Indian curry places, or for example there is Brixton with Jamaican food.
Yeah, also Chinatown in Soho, which feels
So
like
good.
you're literally in the middle of China if it wasn't for the weather. Basically like alive with this whole Asian community. People flock there.
So I grew up in Italy, and there are around 400,000 Italian people living here,
Really?
which is crazy. Basically everywhere you walk around you see people talking in Italian or other languages as well. It's very international, and I think it's a positive.
Very diverse and accepted here, and you can find these really nice communities of people. So if you are from a different country, you can definitely connect with a lot of other people.
The next point is about the easy travel access overseas. So sometimes life in London can get a little bit difficult, and especially the weather doesn't really help. So you need to be able to travel to maybe warmer places, and that's what me and Maya we usually do. The good thing is that there are tons of airports and also train connections. So you have Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, City Airport. And for the first time a few months ago, we tried also the Eurostar that connects the UK to Europe, and you basically go across the channel in less than 3 hours. You are in Paris. traveling with the train was so convenient. You don't need to go through all this security. There is also a new train that takes you to Amsterdam, which we never tried. And also I feel like from London, some flights to Europe are quite cheap.
Really cheap, yeah.
Easy and convenient to travel to Spain, to travel to Italy. So if you feel depressed about the London weather, just remember that you are a fly away to a hotter place.
So our 8th point about pros of living in London is, for me, the preservation of the history of London, especially in the area near the River Thames centrally. These amazing iconic places like Tower Bridge, the Tower of London, the HMS Belfast, which is just sat next to the river. There's so many places that you can visit to find out about the history of London and all these fun attractions like London Dungeons. It's actually amazing how well preserved these places are. So the Tower of London is still in full operation. They're obviously not beheading people anymore, but you can go in there and get a tour by a culture of people that have been working there for hundreds of years, and the ravens are still in the tower. They're not flying away. Like, there's just so much rich...
The ravens are in the tower.
There's just such a rich history that's accessible in this city.
Point number 9 is probably my favorite thing about London, and it's the abundance of green spaces. I feel like there is not another city in Europe that has the amount of parks that London has. And especially for me, that I like to run, I like to practice sport outside. I feel like London has just so many options for me. You see all the people who go and chill in parks in summer or go for a walk, classes as well happening in parks and stuff. You can see people practicing yoga. You have the Regent Park, you have the Hyde Park, which is beautiful. You have the Hampstead Heath. Next to where we live, we literally have a park, 2 minutes walk, not that far from Greenwich Park, which is beautiful. So it's just so nice to enjoy these places, especially in summer or on a weekend. And I feel like in a concrete jungle like London is, and all this like hustle and bustle, very busy all the time, I feel like having green spaces near you, they're really important as well for your mental health. All the time where we're stressed and we wanna for a little bit
step into nature,
we really enjoy to go on walks.
Yeah. So the last positive point on our list is that although London can be really expensive, there are so many free things that you can do in the city. As long as you plan and you're ready to book things and just be a bit more strategic with your time, you can go to the Natural History Museum, you can go to the Tate Modern, you can go to so many galleries and museums for free. But aside from kind of art and history, there are also these incredible places that you can visit, like the Sky Garden, where you can go to I think it's the 43rd floor of the Walkie Talkie building and experience this lush greenery with incredible views across the whole city, and that is free. I feel like that kind of thing in any other city you would definitely have to pay for, but all you need to do is pre-book in advance. I found that by doing it 3 weeks before, I could get the date and the slot that I wanted. Other incredible places you can visit, like the Leadenhall Market, it's like this beautiful alleyway where parts of Harry Potter were filmed, and they've just not put a price tag on these things. It's completely free. So that's really a great thing for when you just want to visit somewhere and not spend an absolute fortune.
Enough talking about all the positive parts about London. London, as many other big cities, has a ton of negatives. And to me, the most negative part about London, pretty much everybody can agree with me, is the weather. So the weather is very unpredictable and changes all the time. Lots of showers during the day, and then the sun comes out, and then it's windy again, and then it rains. So it's very difficult to layer up and understand what to actually wear. Carry with you an umbrella all the time. The other part which I don't like, you cannot rely on a summer. You don't really have like a full-on 3 to 4 month summer like you have in Europe.
It's not consistent.
It's not consistent at all. And then sometimes even in August most, you already need a jacket. Even though winters are not cold, like for example we experience in Vienna, the humidity here makes you feel the temperature much more colder than it actually is. The weather can be obviously very, very gray. For example, last week we went through 8 to 10 days without seeing a sun. This is probably what will make me want to move out of London.
Seasonal depression. When spring comes, it still doesn't come quick enough.
You're missing some seasons basically.
London is not able to prepare itself for some weathers, and there can be a lot of flooding, and people's houses can become very mouldy due to the humidity of the air and the cold, and you have to spend so much money on heating in order to combat some of the conditions that can happen in properties in London. So point number 2 is the crime. There is quite a bad issue with crime in London. I would say it is definitely the city that I feel the most unsafe in. It's really, really sad that you can't make your way home alone when it gets a bit darker, that you have to always message your friends saying text me when you get home, and that is just the culture that's accepted for women. You can feel incredibly unsafe, not to mention phone theft issue that's going on in tourist areas that's been happening for the last year, and it's literally a pandemic about people riding bikes and scooters with a mask on, electric scooters, and swiping people's phones out of their hand whilst they're using them. And obviously you do need to use your phone. Maybe you're looking for directions, maybe you're contacting someone to say where you are. It's ridiculous.
Everybody in London has a friend or knows somebody who's been victim of a phone snatch. Be really, really careful. Maya obviously found a solution of using this strap, but the fact that you already need to buy something like that for this issue, it's actually crazy in my opinion.
This one's from Topology. I'd probably say it's one of the best. It just is quite sturdy because it clips underneath your phone as well, which is good. But
we're not sponsored by Topology yet.
In general, when we have to vlog around London as well, it gives me a lot of anxiety using cameras and devices because I'm always aware that these thefts are happening. You really need to watch out for your belongings.
Did I ruin your video?
No.
So the next point is about the high cost of living in London. Since inflation hit pretty much every city around the world, London has been hit pretty hard on what was already very high costs. So the rent right now is actually really, really high. The price increased much faster in comparison to other European cities. It's quite difficult to rent your own place. You need to be sharing or renting yourself a room because otherwise with the other costs, food, transportation, you can literally barely survive on a salary.
If you go to a supermarket here and you buy a lot of standard groceries in comparison to European produce like breads and fresh produce,
the quality is so bad. The
quality can be really bad in London.
Vegetables are horrible. Meat can be good, but you know, to me it feels like to have a decent quality of life in London, you should be earning around 45 to 50k. Otherwise, if you earn less, it's a little bit difficult to save. And I feel like if you don't save on a monthly basis, buying a house in the future is probably impossible.
Sometimes it feels like on a salary here in London, it doesn't quite match the cost of living. I know that a lot of people will take jobs for the experience and there might not be a good salary to it. Or there's also unpaid internships, which is just wild. To do that, you need to obviously have some kind of savings. It sometimes feels like in London, by the end of the month, you're just making ends meet after you've paid all your bills, transportation, electricity, and never really able to save. Point number 4 kind of is an extension of our previous point. Housing is really, really expensive in London. To get a one-bed flat, you're paying upwards of
400 to 500k.
It's so expensive, especially if you're looking to live in zones 1 to 4.
It's been quite stressful understanding that buying a house here in London is so difficult.
We've kind of changed our mind about what we thought we would be saving money for. And after doing a lot of research, actually now is definitely not the right time to buy a house. The mortgage rates are so high, the interest rates are so high, and you're not necessarily getting a decent property for your money. It's such a risk. There's other things that you can do, like just investing your money over a period of time.
Yeah, it feels like the prices are so high that we're in a property bubble. Prices don't make sense right now.
It's a shame, because I think you're taught that the best investment that you can do is to buy a property, but actually right now it's not at all. Our next point is around the disruption that you can have to your commutes. You can have disruption due to weather, you can have closures, you can have a lot of strikes, so it means that the trains won't even run. So you can really get stuck in one area and you either have to get a replacement bus, which can be the longest route ever, or you have to pay for a taxi. Although transport is good in London, you can have some really severe disruptions and can really mess up your plans. So for Danny's industry, he works in fintech, but maybe other industries in London, like in finance, or potentially if you're training to be a lawyer, for example, you can have really stressful days that then you're not eating properly, you maybe get into really bad habits. The point in general is about work-life balance and being able to acknowledge that your job isn't your life. From what I've observed with Danny, have a really stressful day working in the office in the city, it's very easy to then go with colleagues to the pub and have a drink. And that whole drinking culture is very prominent in London as well when you're a working professional, potentially quite dangerous for your long-term health. It also feels like here in London, the more you earn, the more stress that you have, the more that you spend going out on the weekend, and constant battle of juggling work and having your own spare time and not letting work just constantly take over everything.
The seventh point is about London being dirty, noisy, and just very chaotic. So I feel like the city, of course, is massive and it grows constantly. So you have building sites pretty much everywhere with construction works, and it's just super, super loud. Also, for example, the air quality can be sometimes a little bit bad. When you take the tube, the air there is just like so difficult to breathe. I feel like the air quality in the tube can be really, really bad for you.
And in general, the streets can be completely full of litter, and it's a real shame to see, especially in summer. The parks get completely full of rubbish. People don't really understand that you have to take care of your spaces, and unfortunately it's a small minority of people that don't understand that and kind of ruin these places for everyone.
True.
Point number 8, I have found a lack of gyms in London, and this might be a very personal point just for us, but in general, where we live, South London, there's really not that many good gyms. You are forced to pay upwards of £100 per month to have a decent place to work out, to shower. I'm not really happy with my gym at the moment, but it's the best of a bad bunch, and I still have to travel quite far to get there. All the classes get booked up because it's just so busy, and you're in an area that's so heavily populated that everyone wants to go on a Saturday and Sunday, so potentially missing out if you're not quick enough or you don't plan quickly enough to go to a specific class. I just feel like the expensive gyms would be amazing, but I would just never be able to afford 300.
There are just these extremes of cheap gyms and then this very
Really
expensive one. So you have Pure Gym, Fitness First, which are very run down and actually
Not
not
nice
good at all.
places.
Yeah, if you want to go to a nice gym, then you need to be prepared to spend around 250 to 300 pounds a month.
And then you're travelling into really central places for those as well, so you're then spending about a fiver just to get there. Point number 9 is about safety when you are commuting, and specifically cycling. I feel like cycling in London is a very dangerous game, even if you are a very competent cyclist. Areas that you can cycle in, cycle lanes, are very badly done and there's tons of potholes. You also have these maniacs in the cycle lanes, probably the ones who are stealing phones, who are going so fast. You can potentially have a collision even in a safe area. 3 times a week I cycle to the gym, and I just feel like the entire way there are so many hazards, whether that is people opening their car doors without checking that someone's coming up, cars that are just speeding down lanes that should be 20 miles per hour, and you do hear horrible accidents. It can be really, really scary.
It is really dangerous. So our last point about the negatives of living in London is about finding space in restaurants. The city, of course, is really busy, and when we want to go out for food on the weekend, if we're not booking a place well in advance, it's basically impossible for us to eat there. Most of the nice places, they're always booked up in advance. It happened to us many times where we had to change our plans because we were confident we will get some space there. If you come to London, or if you're a Londoner, you know that this is a difficult part of living in London.
So that was all our points, positive and negative.
Let us know if you agree or disagree with our points. Please write a comment. We would love to hear your opinion.
And if you're thinking about moving to London, hopefully this was helpful to you in some sense to weigh up things that you might have been worried about or curious about. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on all our content, and next week we'll be bringing you some more travel and lifestyle content. Thanks for watching. Bye. Do I need to say from?
Yeah, we always go on a menti breaky walk. If not, this video is for you. That's good.